Good morning. Hi Debbie. I'm going to do this quick presentation. I'm only doing the trees that I have and the shrubs and stuff that I have so far. The reason why I'm not waiting till I'm completely done is because it will take forever and I want to kind of get going a little bit just for some momentum. Um, and I have to do this all after the kids go to bed at night, and so sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on how absolutely beat I am, considering we have my oldest Nash who likes to wake up anytime between 3 and 5 in the morning. So if it's a 3 o'clock morning or even a 2 or a 1 o'clock morning, by the time bedtime rolls around, I'm going to bed. I'm not I'm not staying up and working on my badge. So anyways, here we go. I'm going to turn the camera, and I'm hoping this will come up. It might be a little crazy. If that's going to be nutso, we'll see how that goes. But this is the Boy Scouts of America Merit Badge Series, Forestry. I don't know if that's going to bug you or if that's going to be way photosensitive. Kind of looks like it is, but we'll see here. Okay, so obviously for the badge, I need to prepare a field notebook and make a collection and identify 15 species of trees, wild shrubs, vines, local forested area in our local forested area or kind of close by here is where I've kind of been doing it. I need to write a description, kind of identify and discuss the characteristics of leaf, twig, cone, or fruiting body, the habitat in which the trees, vines, and shrubs are found, and then kind of the importance and the uses by both humans and wildlife. And if the species is native, and if it isn't, if it's considered invasive or potentially invasive. Of course, being me, I also added a few bonus pieces of information that I found quite interesting and that I actually learned. So the information I'm going to call power packs. And for those of you who I am going to be presenting this to that don't know what a power pack is, I worked at a bar in Pueblo where we had little pitchers of beer, and they were called power packs because they were more than one draft, but not quite three. So it's like perfect. And so I'm going to do some power pack things too. So, okay, so the first one, those of you who live here in the Pacific Northwest, does that look familiar? Yeah, that would be the blackberry. I picked that for number one just because it's everywhere here. More specifically, the Himalayan blackberry, genus is Rubus, species. Now I'm going to do my best on these species names, but I'm not great with it. So, Armeniacus, I don't know. Okay, so here in the Pacific Northwest, obviously the Himalayan blackberries are everywhere. It says here they grow out of control in urban, suburban parks and woodlands, and they're considered a noxious weed. And here's the thing, they're perennials, you guys. They come up every year, as we all know, and they do great in poor soil, which would be why they're in all the vacant lots and in really, just crappy areas of town and even around cement and stuff. But they are huge. They grow in huge, it says here, impenetrable thickets or brambles, which are, I know them as briars, but they're just big, huge bushes, and they just are out of control. They colonize in ditches, wastelands, vacant lots all the time. Now, if you look at a blackberry, it looks pretty much identical to a raspberry, except for they're black. But they're close relatives. And the thing about the raspberry is that when you pick a raspberry, the center or the torus it stays on the plant, whereas if you have a blackberry, it's picked with the berry. And so there's a kind of a cross section there that I'll show you. So when you look at a raspberry, it's hollow inside. I never paid attention, honestly. Okay, so here's the thing. The leaves on blackberries, if you look there, they are large, compound, and they're with 5 or 7 leaflets, odd numbers, of course. First year, there's no flower. The second year, it starts to produce flowers. And then by the 4th year, the shoots have prickles on them. And I was reading about these prickles. They're technically prickles. They're not thorns. I always thought they were thorns. But anyways, they are nasty, and they do tear denim, which makes obviously picking them hard to do, but we do it because they're so good, those blackberries. However, a little power pack fact, at the University of Arkansas, they developed prickle-free blackberries that also flower in the first year. How cool is that? That's pretty awesome. Now, the Himalayan blackberry specifically, which is grown around us, by the animals, obviously caterpillars eat them, deer eat the foliage, the berries are eaten by the red fox, black bears, badgers, as well as small birds. And then, of course, for us people, we like to just eat them, but also we can put them in desserts, jams, jellies, wine, liqueur. And you're probably thinking, okay, so these things grow in vacant lots. You guys have blackberries? No, we don't have blackberries, but obviously these things grow wild here in the Pacific Northwest. So they're up in the mountains, they're everywhere. And so yes, the black bears, I'm sure, eat them, as is said. Okay, Power Pack fact. Now again, if you're looking at this picture, those look like raspberries, right? Well, they could be, but they're blackberries. And the thing is, blackberries are black when they are ripe. And when they're red, they're not ripe. Obviously, like with raspberry, they're red when they're ripe. So kind of an expression that had been coined about the blackberry. I didn't do this, but I just saw it and I thought it was funny. Blackberries are red when they are green. Pretty funny. But that is what they look like, and they are so delicious. All right, another Power Pack fact. I found this pretty interesting. Obviously, because blackberries are so widely, hybridized, they have been cultivated very much, this berry, because it's so good and popular. Well, a really, really smart dude in California, Santa Cruz, John Harvey Logan. And the reason why I say he's smart is the guy was a judge. So obviously he went to law school, he's a pretty smart guy. But then on the science end of it, he was also a horticulturist. And he made a hybrid of a blackberry and a raspberry called a loganberry. And if you look at that, looking at that picture, I don't have a mouse, but I'm going to point right there. There's the Taurus. So apparently with a loganberry, that's picked with the berry. It's not hollow there. And then if you look, those loganberries are kind of like long and conical shaped. So they're a little bit different looking than a blackberry and a raspberry, but they're different. And they're called a loganberry. And I could not go on without mentioning the Marion, or the Marionberry. So these are awesome. They're so good. And part of the reason why I can't go on without mentioning these is they're huge here in Oregon. The Marionberries, you'll go to the store, there's Marionberry jelly, Marionberry ice cream, Marionberry pop, soda, wine, whatever. So these are a hybrid of the Chehalem and the Olalley blackberries, and they are most commonly produced, or the most commonly produced blackberries here in Oregon. So they were developed in the blackberry breeding program here at our very own OSU in Corvallis. And again, if you look at that picture, those berries are a little bit longer and stretched out a little bit more than just the regular wild Himalayan blackberry. So there you go. There's our blackberries. So a little extra fun there. All right, what is that? That is beautiful. That might look familiar. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. That beautiful tree is called a sweet gum tree. We actually have one of these in our backyard, but they're very popular in the suburbs just for ornamental purposes mostly. The genus is liquid amber, or amber. And then the species name of this is the Styraciflua. Again, I told you I'd try my best. I gotta attempt it, right? Anyways, these gorgeous trees, they're common in the southeastern United States. Very popular ornamental tree because, as you saw in the picture before, the autumn colors are super intense and they really are that bright and beautiful. It is native to North America. The species, they grow best in moist, acidic, it says loam, I don't know what that is, or clay soil, and it tolerates poor drainage. And it's been cultivated into many shapes and colors. If I go back, I don't know if I can. Let's see. Let's try to go back to this. So if you look at this tree, it's kind of wider at the bottom and kind of goes up to the point. Our sweet gum is more column-like. It's just more straight up and down. But same beautiful colors like that. A lot of oranges and reds and yellow, and it's just beautiful. But Anyways, so the leaves on these are, again, really large. They're deciduous, of course, and they're 5 to 7 pointed star shaped uh, leaves. And like I said, they're real big. They're like maple leaves, kind of. They're just very large. Fruit. Okay, this is where the sweet gums aren't so sweet or not so great. um, they drop these little spiny golf ball sized capsules, and they are spiky, and that means you cannot go out into the lawn barefoot. I mean, they're not going to like poke through your skin or anything, but they're not pleasant. So that's the one thing I don't like about these. And there are people that actually go in and sterilize the trees so that they don't drop all those. Obviously, you can't get all of them, but I've seen people actually drill holes into the bottom of the tree and put little bottles of stuff that release stuff that sterilizes the tree so that it doesn't drop those spiky balls. You still get the beauty, but you don't get that. We haven't tried that, obviously. We just go out and do our best to manage that. But anyways, oops. Let me go back. Let me go. I went too fast. Okay, so, maybe, there we go. Okay, so as far as the uses for this tree, I will say I had a hard time finding uses for animals because I think it's so urbanized and they're not really, at least that I could see. Anyways, the uses as far as for people, it's an important hardwood. It's used very commercially. The wood is very heavy, straight, satiny, and it's close grained, and it polishes really nice. But it can warp. So it says because of the specific gravity. I don't necessarily know what that means. There was a number attached to it, and don't make me do math, okay? But anyways, it's not good wood for outdoor use because it will decay pretty easily. So it's obviously not wood you're going to find on a boat or on anything like that. But carpenters like to refer to it as satin walnut, and it's mostly used in plywood, but it can also be used in furniture, interior trim, railroad ties, cigar boxes, flooring, woodenware, different veneers, that kind of thing. So it's pretty kind of the satiny walnut. I guess that makes sense. Now, if I go out and look up in the tree, there are nests up in the tree after all the leaves have fallen off. So obviously it is shelter for birds and possibly, obviously the squirrels like to go haywire with the trees up and down. So I'm sure there's uses for it as far as here suburban wise, but I mean I'm not seeing what kind of food it produces. Those fruits aren't exactly edible, I wouldn't think, but who knows. Power pack fact. A grove of sweet gums was donated to Shanksville, Pennsylvania as a memorial to Flight 93. Thought that was really neat, interesting. And I'm sure it's just because of the beauty. They're very pretty trees. Okay, this lovely picture, another very, very plentiful plant out here in Oregon, is the rhododendron. Now, the rhododendron genus is rhododendron. This specific species that I am talking about is Ferruginum. Now, when I was doing research on this, there are over 1,000 species of rhodies, which is insane. That's crazy, but there are. So they are a woody shrub, and they can be small trees or even large trees. And rhododendron plants prefer damp climates and mild temperatures, which, hello, that's Oregon. Hello, that's Washington. So they're huge out here. Now, that picture there is obviously a tree. I've never seen a tree that big out here. They're usually, I'll show you another picture, like what you see, kind of the shrubby type things. They are called by many out here, obviously rhododendrons, and they are known for having the really large blooms on them that are just gorgeous. A power pack is that rhododendrons are Washington State's state flower. I did not know that. It makes sense, but I didn't know that. So, okay, the thing about this on the left-hand side, that's what I picture as a rhododendron leaf plant. But they are also, they can be deciduous, which again, there's thousands of them. So it would make sense that they might have some different types of leaves, but spiral and small, both in the tropical and the alpine species. So I have a picture there of both the deciduous leaves there over on the right hand side. Now I will say that is a legit picture from like the internet. The one on the left, that's more what we see around here, or that's what we do. So now again, these two pictures, this is more what you see for rhododendrons, at least out here in Oregon, and that's what they look like. They are highly cultivated because of for colors and that kind of thing, blooms. They are known for ornamental landscaping, especially here, obviously. Interesting. I mean, like you can go to Wendy's and they're all around Wendy's along the parking lot and stuff like that. So it's definitely a really pretty landscape flower, obviously. And it's funny, all of them I have are like red and purple, but that's what they are. So a power pack fact. I'm sure you've heard of azaleas. In fact, there is a picture of an azalea, and they are often confused with rhododendrons, which, as it turns out, they are a subgenus of rhodies. And they make up two subgenuses of rhodies. Now, azaleas have only 5 anthers per flower, where a true rhodie, I don't, I haven't gone and counted them, to be honest, but that's what the internet says. I'm going to go with it. But azaleas and rhododendrons, super popular out here. And again, they can be very confusing because I always got them confused until I saw them next to each other. They're very, very similar, but if you see them next to each other, you can tell the difference. If I just saw one like that, I might think that's a rhodie, but I'm getting better. Uses. Rhododendrons are native in the West Coast range from British Columbia to Northern California, but they're also in Europe and Russia and Asia. Here in the United States, they're more ornamental. However, in Australia, they're considered invasive, which is interesting, kind of like our Himalayan blackberries. But they produce lots of seeds, they form dense thickets, and they can choke out the sun and other plants. So that's what ends up happening. Now, people have also been known to become ill from eating honey made from the bees feeding on rhodies and azalea flowers, but that's mostly in Asia. So they obviously have a different species over there that's not good. However, rhodies are extremely toxic to horses and poisonous to most mammals, which I thought was interesting. So I guess if you have horses, don't have rhododendrons for your landscape. Okay, look at that beauty. Look at those beauties. Oh, long before I did this report, aspen trees have been one of my favorite because of that white bark. It's so striking and so beautiful. So yes, again, aspen trees, genus Populus, species Tremulotus or Tremuloidus, which is quaking aspen. I'll explain that here in a few. Aspen prefer moist soil, but they can survive near springs in the desert, and they need a lot of sun. Most widespread, obviously, here in North America, from the Midwest across Canada, Alaska, and across the west to Arizona and New Mexico, which I didn't know that, but it kind of makes sense. I lived in Colorado. They were there, so it makes sense right below us, New Mexico, Arizona, all of that. Aspen trees, okay, so their leaves are small, round. They have kind of little teeth on the side, and they're deciduous, of course. The trees grow in tall tube-like stands. A stand is a group of trees, and they have white bark, making them, in my opinion, very striking and very beautiful. I've always loved aspens because of their white bark. I always think that's just beautiful. Okay, uses for animals: food for moose, black bear, beaver, porcupine, rodents, and for humans, the wood is soft but actually relatively strong. So, because the wood is also not as flammable as other wood, wood matches are usually made with aspen wood. They're also very popularly used in saunas, in chopsticks. I thought that was interesting. And bark contains an anti-inflammatory property that can be used in aspirin. And I think some people, Native Americans and stuff, would use the bark for anti-inflammatory purposes. So power packs. I know, Debbie, you and I had talked a little bit about this, but one thing I learned is they are known as quaking aspen due to the noise and movement of the leaves made from the clones and clusters of trees. So if you are out in Colorado or you're out where there's a big clone of them, we actually have 3 aspen trees in our backyard. And when those leaves start moving with the wind, it's like the leaves do move like a little earthquake. It's like, and that's the noise it makes. It almost sounds like a river is flowing. It's like, in the wind. So they are known as quaking aspen, which is that species name, the tremulotus or whatever. Anyways, um, a stand is actually also considered one single organism because of the extensive root system. So before you see a single trunk, there's a whole bunch of roots underneath before you actually see a tree. So in a single stand or of trees or a group of trees, each tree, I thought this was interesting, is a genetic replicate, hence the name a clone of aspens, clone of trees. The oldest living clone of aspens as one single organism is in Utah's Fishing Lake National Forest. It's lived more than 80,000 years, and at 6,600 tons, it's also the heaviest. I got that off Wikipedia. I know, Debbie, you were saying something about Crested Butte, so I'd like to honestly do a little bit more research on that because I'm curious now. Obviously, Colorado's got a ton of aspen out there too, so who knows? But aspen grow all the time, even in the winter. So I thought this was interesting. Most deciduous trees, normally they just go dormant in the winter. All the leaves fall off and they just go dormant. But due to a thin photosynthetic layer of green that's below that white bark, during the hard winters, the sugars produced actually give nutrients to deer and elk. So they must go over there and gnaw on the tree a little bit. Didn't know that. Okay, so the next one is going to be cedar or cedrus. I have not got that done yet, but stay tuned.